And a 4.6 as J.E. Dunn lets you look at it one more time. That is going to put him number 3 in the round. And here is a look at the Chevron leaderboard. Ty Kipp is rolling at the National Western, 3.8. Then Seth Peterson with a 4 and 5. Emmett Edler, 4.6. Landon Beardsworth is in the finals with a 5 flat. Thank you to Chevron, the official partner of the National Western Stock Show. Well, at the National Western Stock Show, we are the Super Bowl of livestock shows. But tonight inside of this arena, it's time to bring you something special.
Welcome to the National Western.
For the first time in the history of stock shows around this country, tonight we represent and we recognize the greatest females in the beef industry by crowning tonight the Supreme Junior Heifer of the National Western Stock Show.
This has never been done before in the history. And tonight we're going to have an opportunity to meet these kids that earned their right to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, from Breckenridge, Texas, with the Angus Heifer, that is Kaylee Langford, 19 years old.
From Poussin, Illinois, Brecken Barnard in their Charlet.
In the Kiania, it is the lady Brianna Wilkins from Bennett, Iowa.
The Kian Angus is Bregan Strope of O'Neill, Nebraska.
The young man with the Gelby is Reed Overmiller from Kansas, 13 years old.
From St. Francis, Kansas today, and the top balancer heifer is Carly Riley.
Next, from Lawrence, Kansas with the Highland, it is Peyton Bear.
Make welcome with our Hereford heifer. This is Kennedy Jean Hoffman of Thurford, Nebraska.
Next is going to be your polled Hereford. That is Roland Bozeiden, 19 years old from Winoka, Oklahoma.
Bringing us a champion limousine, Tyler Thompson of Sterling, Colorado.
Carrying the Limiplex, this is Ben Spencer from Gibbon, Nebraska.
To the main Anju we go for Kelton Arthur of Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Next is going to be our maintainer. This is Kaylee Jennings from Ohio.
Asher Short from Masonville, Iowa brings us our main Angus heifer.
Carrying our purebred Simmental all the way from Iowa, that is Brock Henderson.
Brecklin Broomberg from Galva, Illinois brings us our percentage Simmental.
And carrying the short horn, that is Mercedes Ferrier from Indiana.
And J.C. Stutzman in the Shorthorn Plus from Milford, Nebraska.
Ah, the Red Angus, what an amazing animal that is. That is a Kelly Miller from El Dorado, Kansas. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a collective round of applause? These kids come from 1,600 heifers to work their way down to 26 of the breed champions. And tonight, we see 19 of them here on the arena floor.
So as a welcome in my partner, TC Long. TC, we talk about this over at the Sue Ann Shoots Livestock Arena in the CoBank Arena. We've been judging livestock since the beginning days of the National Western. And at a lot of stock shows, they might bring in the grand drive of steers, but this is the first time that we've had females on a stage like this to be judged in front of an audience like this to show the rest of the world what we're doing at the National Western Stock Show.
That's right. These animals are what bring out the next generation of livestock to us. This is what is going to feed America, and this is these young men and women's chance at big money. When I talk about big money, almost $50,000 on this arena floor. Every kid on this arena floor is going to get at least $1,000. But first is going to win $10,000. Second, $7,500. Third, $5,000. $3,500 and $2,500. That is amazing.
And two renowned judges, as you look at them right there on the arena floor, that is Dan and Mark Hogue, two of the most respected beef judges in the world that are going to get to pick tonight's superior heifer here at the National Western.
They are third generation, and what they are looking for as these animals, structural correctness, balance, muscle, femininity, along with that, overall quality to bring the next generation of livestock right here. Over $700,000 in scholarships is given away each year at the National Western to go home to these kids to carry on success.
So you watch as they'll evaluate each heifer, and then they're going to get ready to pick our supreme champion heifer, and that young man or woman then will receive that check right there for $10,000. As our friends at Colorado State University, Flint Co. Construction, and Transwest and Jason Hoffman Ranch paying out those big bucks here tonight for our Supreme Heifer Drive.
First time in history as you talk about 33 countries represented here at the National Western. 50 states that have shown livestock right here.
Okay, the judges have made their decision. They're talking it over one more time to make sure that the decision has been made. So it is time to select the Supreme Junior Heifer of the National Western Stock Show.
Can you imagine the tension that these kids, for over 2 weeks, they have been waiting for this. Some of these heifers showed 2 weeks ago, and keeping these animals fit, in shape, and ready for tonight in front of 8,000 fans.
So let's find out where we're going.
That is Kaylee Langford with the Angus from Breckenridge, Texas, is going to be the very first Supreme Heifer champion to be crowned here at the National Western in this Coliseum, and that is $10,000.
Thank you to CSU's Don Thorne, the CSU Office of Engagement and Extension, and Caroline Lawrence Dill, the Dean of CSU College of Agricultural Sciences, to help present the check and the banner for the first ever Supreme Junior Heifer Drive here at the National Western.
You know, the most amazing thing is you talk about how agriculture affects Colorado. Over $4.5 billion, that's with a B, that affects the economy here each and every year. And 50% of that comes from our cattle industry.
Along with Doug Jones, that is the chairman of the board of the National Western Stock Show, and J.W. Stamenson, the VP and area manager from Flint Co. Construction, along with Andrew and Meredith Lyons from Transwest Truck Trailer RV.
Now, it is time for our reserve champion to take home $7,500. Let's see where we're headed to. And that is going to be Brecklin Bloomberg with our present Simmental, all the way from the great state of Illinois. That young lady, 13 years old, and just won $7,500.
The emotion on their faces when they find out. That is a lot of work that goes into fitting, growing one up. They become a piece of your family. I'll guarantee you that. How about it for your reserve Supreme Champion heifer of the National Western Stock Show?
You know, at a lot of shows, that would be where it finishes, just your grand and reserve. But not here at the National Western. When you want to set a legacy, you continue to drive forward and give more. As we set history, next is going to be our third place winner for $5,000, and that is going to be our main Angus Asher Short, all the way from Iowa, and that young man is 9 years old.
Z will come center stage. The third overall banner and a check for $5,000.
You know, as you talk about farms here in Colorado, over 12,000 farms still remain, and 93% of those are family owned right here in Colorado. So now we take a look for our fourth place win. And that is going to go to our main ingenue, all the way from Stillwater, Oklahoma, Kelton Arthur.
Thank you again to CSU, Colorado State University, along with Glencoe Construction, Transwest, of course, Truck, Trailer, and RV for presenting the awards and the checks to our top 5 in our Supreme Heifer Drive here at the National Western Stock Show. Give that young man a big round of applause. Another guy that's put in a ton of work to get to this point.
These genetics have a global influence on the genetics that carry on the tradition, just like here. It celebrates 120 years. And ladies and gentlemen, your 5th place overall is going to be Brett Barnard of Illinois with the Charlet, 15 years old. So amazing that every one of these kids receive $1,000 just to come right back here in this arena. But adding on to that, the $28,500 that we are presenting here on the arena floor is truly record-setting. Just a piece of $700,000 in scholarships to go back to the kids. By you buying a rodeo ticket, you coming to the National Western, you buying food and helping bring the next generation of agriculture, this is what makes it happen.
Very cool, everybody. For the first time inside of a major arena, we have picked the Supreme Heifers here today. How about it, everybody, for the kids? How about it for the National Western Stock Show? You know, the mission has always been bigger than competition. It's been about supporting youth and agriculture, honoring families and communities that raise our food and create meaningful connections between rural producers and the urban audience. And what you saw in this arena tonight is not just exceptional heifers, but you saw the result of hard work, discipline, responsibility, and pride. You saw young people leading with confidence, respecting their very best of agriculture and the future of our industry. And these are the moments that are going to shape their lives forever. As you know what? We are all about the education of the youth of Colorado and the country. And as we celebrate 120 years of the National Western Stock Show, we are reminded that this tradition endures because it involves everything. This is why we show This is why we gather, and this is why the National Western matters, because this is why we are the West. How about it for our exhibitors tonight of the Supreme Hereford Drive here at the National Western Stock Show.